If you were hoping for an in-depth review of the SS Brewtech SVBS single vessel brewing system, I'm afraid that ship has sailed. By now there are more than a couple of YouTube channels that have covered that subject. But in this video I will be sharing a few of my findings with you. Oh, and I've come to the conclusion that I suck at making beer. Cold beer. Hey folks, after brewing a pretty accurate clone of Iyengar's Celebrator and then a good beer but a not so close clone of Trackware House Ale, this time I attempt a German-style Märzen Lager from a recipe found at the American Homebrewers Association website Recipe Database. This one is from Dry Dock Brewing in Colorado. It's the one they call Docktoberfest. Dry Dock is an award-winning craft brewery in Aurora, Colorado that produces only about 20,000 barrels a year and distributes throughout their home state. So unfortunately, I can't get Dry Dock products here in Michigan, so I won't be able to do a side-by-side comparison at the end of this video. And as you'll see, there's no reason to even try. On brew day, I start by heating up just under 8 gallons of water in the SS Brewtech SVBS to 158 degrees Fahrenheit, which will give me a mash temperature of 152 once the grist has been added. The SVBS allows you to create and save temperatures on the controller. You could set your mash temperature and then your mash out temp, or as I did, set your strike temperature and then your mash temp. It's pretty simple to do by using the up and down arrows to select your desired temperature, then hold one of the buttons to save it. The one thing that the controller does not have that I would like to see is a delay timer setup, so I could program my strike temps the night before and set it to begin heating at about 30 minutes before I choose to start my brew day. 30 minutes, by the way, is how long it took for the SVBS to go from my groundwater temp of 55 degrees up to 158 Fahrenheit. Not bad at all. Water chemistry is one of the things I want to start paying more attention to, and I've got big plans in the future for getting there. Right now, I'm just using the water from my well and the water tool in Beersmith. For now, I just sent a sample of my water to Ward Labs and ordered one of their brewing water tests. When the results came back, I entered that info into Beersmith and created my base water profile. From then on, it's pretty easy. Every time you work on a recipe, you just click the Water tab, select your base water profile to get started. Then choose the target water profile you wish to match, and when you click OK, the software tells you which additives and how much are needed to match that target. The AHA's website calls for 8 pounds of Weyermann Vienna malt, 2.5 pounds of Weyermann Munich 1, 8 ounces of Weyermann Cara Munich 2, and 2 ounces of crisp chocolate malt. After adjusting for my system's efficiency, my weights turned out a little bit different than the website. In percentages, I used 71.6% Vienna malt, 22.2% of Munich 1, 4.9% of Cara Munich 2, and 1.2% chocolate malt. Now, after the grain bed had settled for 15 minutes, I began recirculating on the SVBS, which is fairly easy to do. The center-mounted recirculation tube is attached to the mash basket, and turning it on is just a matter of opening the recirculation port at the bottom of the unit, then pressing the pump button on the controller. If there's one drawback, it's that the recirculation tube attaches with a small 3/4 inch tri-clamp, and while it's not too bad for me to reach into the bottom of the mash basket, it may be a struggle for someone with larger arms than mine. And nearly everyone has larger arms than my spaghetti noodles. With the mash complete, I turn off the pump and set the controller to boil. Once again, you have two presets that you can create. I've got one at 100% to reach the boil as soon as possible, and then another set to 75% power to keep it rolling during the rest of the boil, which for this recipe is 90 minutes. FYI, my pre-boil gravity as estimated by Beersmith was supposed to be 1.045, while my actual was 1.043. With 60 minutes left in the boil, it's time for the first addition of hops, which is 1 1/4 ounces of Hallertau Mittelfrüh. However, to keep from having a 1/4 ounce left over at the end of the brew day, I rounded that up to 1 1/2 ounces. 15 minutes later comes more Hallertau Mittelfrüh, this time just a 1/2 ounce. During the previous norovirus brew, see the last video for that explanation, I used the immersion chiller from my old Anvil Foundry 10.5, but I've since sold that system, so I bought the immersion chiller specially made for the SVBS, and I gotta say, it works like a champ. It took me from boiling to my desired yeast pitching temp of 64 degrees Fahrenheit in just 17 minutes. Once the boil ended, I transferred to the fermenter and pitched Oktoberfest Omega OYL-107 yeast from a 1.5 liter starter I made the day before.
I pitched the yeast, and I didn't turn the camera on to record it.
My estimated batch volume was 5.25 gallons, which is exactly what I ended up with. I took a gravity reading before pitching the yeast, which was 1.056, while the gravity I was expecting was 1.060.
Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Now, Dry Dock describes their Docktoberfest as having a toasted biscuit character with gentle notes of hop spice. But as I alluded to at the beginning of the video, there's no need to even compare mine with theirs, even if I could get a bottle of the real thing. While transferring from the fermenter to the keg, I wasn't paying attention to my closed transfer system, and all the CO2 from my purge keg got sucked out, and outside air got sucked in. I stopped it as soon as I could, but I knew I was in for trouble, and I could only cross my fingers and hope. As you can guess, this whole batch is now ruined by oxidation. It tastes like you're sucking, oh wait a minute, I want to do a prop. It tastes like you're sucking on this piece of cardboard. The only benefit to the whole thing is that during this video, I've been able to use the word suck 4 times. 5. It's now 5 times that I've said suck. And now it's 6. 6 sucks for this suckety suck beer.